Hey, I hope you're doing well. So, today I'm going to talk about food addiction and how to overcome food addiction. I had a problem with it for many years, and it's something that I still battle with, not where I participate in it, but just the thoughts that can come in your mind when you have overcome any kind of addiction. It's something that you will stay in recovery with. So, I'm going to talk to you today about how I overcame food addiction and just some steps that you can do to help you, because the video that I did, or the live that I did yesterday, people had quite a few messages asking me for my advice on different things, and we talk about this some in my Confidence is Your Crown group. So I'm going to talk to you today about that. So, okay. What is food addiction? And this also can relate for any addiction you have, but specifically this is going to be for food, okay? A lot of people go to food because of comfort, or they are trying to control something in their life, or they are trying to push down feelings, or they eat because they're happy, or they're sad, or they're stressed, or anything. We live in a society, especially here in the South. If you live in the South, you know food is everywhere. It's just what we do here in the South. Anytime you have a family function or family reunions or a get-together, or you have grandmother, because grandmothers like to feed you, they love food. And so it's really, kids are grown up, or you just grow up around it. It's just part of the norm. Now, I thought everybody was like me until I met my husband, Michael, who is his brain is like completely normal. And I wish I had his brain. If I could put his brain in my head, that would be amazing. But Michael only eats when he's hungry. He never thinks about food like at all. It's just amazing. So I learned a lot watching him and watching his eating patterns and what he does when he's stressed, and what he does when he wants to, like, what he does with his emotions. And he deals with his emotions spot on. He doesn't try to push it down or hide it. So I learned a lot from him. But I also learned a lot by going to Celebrate Recovery. I also went to Overeaters Anonymous. Took a lot of classes. There was a lot of help that I took in the past. There was one called Way Down. There was one called Thin Within, which is a Christian-based program. And I learned a lot from doing those classes too. But I'm going to tell you how I completely broke my addiction habit. It was following the Celebrate Recovery steps, but it also was doing my journal technique that I teach in my 5-step curriculum called Crowning Confidence. And it's the third step, and this is the most important step. My steps are listed on YouTube, but I teach them all over when I teach my workshops, but I also teach them in my Confidence is Your Crown Facebook group. So if you want to be part of that group, let me know, because it's more in depth in what I teach in there in that group, and then I touch base on it on YouTube. But step 3 is what I did for myself, because I knew I had to hold myself accountable to break a bad habit. When you have the personality, the all or nothing kind of personality, a lot of women have that. I used to think I was alone in that. And here's an example of an all or nothing type of personality. You're sitting there on the couch thinking, okay, I need to clean my house, but I don't have time to clean all of it, so I'm not going to do it today. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to set my timer and clean 10 minutes and then stop and do what I need to do, and then tomorrow I'm going to do 10 more minutes. We had that mentality. It's all or nothing. I'm either going to do it all today, or I'm not going to do it all. I'm not going to do anything. Same thing with food. How I got myself in such a bad habit after I had my son, that's how I got really bad with food addiction, is I would start off and say, okay, today I am going to do whatever diet program I was on, and I'm just going to say every diet program works, okay? They do. You have to put in the work. So I would get up and say, for example, okay, I have my Weight Watchers book here. I'm going to be doing this. And I'm like, okay, it's breakfast time. And I would go and do breakfast, and I'm like, ooh, those pancakes were good. Yeah, maybe those were 3 points. In my mind, it's like, okay, I want to eat 3 more, and I'm just going to count those points, and then I'll deduct it at the end of the day. Well, then I started feeling bad. I'm like, well, crap, I messed up breakfast. You know what? I'm just going to enjoy the rest of the day, and I'm going to eat whatever I want to, and then tomorrow I'll start again. that's how I got in the bad habit, because guess what? Tomorrow came and the same thing happened. And it only takes a few days, a few weeks to develop a bad habit. And once you have it, it's really difficult. I had another book to share with y'all too that was amazing, that somebody in my business, oh my gosh, where did I do with it? Oh, it's over there. I don't want to get up because I'm in my, I don't want to get up because I'm in my pajama bottoms. Okay. So, but anyway, it's called Atomic Habits. That book is called Atomic Habits. It's a good book too. That's a good personal development book. That's part of my Crowning Confidence curriculum too. We talk about personal development. But that's how you can get in a bad habit. And once you get in one and you have an addictive type of personality, it's truly hard to break. But there is hope out there. So I'm going to teach you about the hope. That there is hope to overcome it, because you can overcome it. Here's how to overcome a bad habit with food addiction. Step number 1, you have to admit you have a problem. You cannot continue to live in denial. How do you know that you're a food addict? You think about food all the time. You have trigger foods that will trigger you to a binge. I had trigger foods. Popcorn was my trigger food. Ice cream was my trigger food. If you watched my video about how I lost weight, I talked about my comfort food that I would eat for my dad when I was overcoming anorexia. And I said my safe food was ice cream. That's my comfort food. And I relate that back to when I was 14, 15, age 13 to 15, overcoming anorexia. That was my safe food. So for me, in my mind, that was safe for me. It didn't matter how many calories it had. That was a safe feeling. That was a comfort to me. So that was a trigger for me. Junk food was a trigger for me. Those type of things, when you have one bite, you can't stop. Like when you have a whole bag of popcorn, a whole bag of chips, that's an addictive type trigger food, and you have to watch yourself with that. You can compare it to drugs or alcohol. It just takes one taste, one hit, and you're hooked. So that is what a trigger food is. Now, yes, you can break that, okay? So there's hope. Just hang in there with me. But then you have to realize, when you have a feeling, okay, why am I wanting to run to food? Let's say that you are stressed to the max. You're stressed out, and you're like, if I could just have a donut, it would make me feel better. And you go have a donut, and it does make you feel better, because you know what? Sugar is an endorphin. It is addicting. So it's like cocaine, it's like crack. Sugar is like that. Our bodies are wired like that. So yes, one taste of a donut, and man, you're hooked. And that's why you don't feel full, because sugar runs through your body really fast. So there's certain chemical, physical reasons why you do become addicted to certain foods. So it's not just you, it's certain things that can happen. So you have to first know what's causing you to eat. And the best way to do this, and how I stopped being in denial, is I kept a journal with me. And that's my big part of step 3. There's 2 different types of journal techniques you can do that I'm going to teach you. The first one is you can just kind of track what you're doing. And I learned this in counseling, especially in some of my addiction counseling. You take a journal. It could be note cards. It could be a piece of paper. And all day long, you're going to write down what you eat and how you felt. What were you feeling at the time? Were you stressed? Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you angry? Were you bored? You're going to track what you're doing. And then you're going to do that for a whole week. And you're going to go back and look and see, okay, where are my trigger moments here? What was going on in the day, and that I can connect the dots to see what is happening here. Because that's your first step to overcoming denial and hitting reality with it. Okay? The second step is to hold yourself accountable. And this is step number 3 in my Crowning Confidence curriculum, is a specific goal-setting journal technique for the all or nothing syndrome, or the addictive type breaking bad habits symptoms, okay? So you're going to get out a journal, and you're going to write down before you go to bed 5 to 10 things that you want to overcome or you want to accomplish the next day. And it needs to be very specific in what you're doing in your addiction. So for me, it was, okay, this is about food. This is about getting healthy. So I would write down that night, I would write down, okay, these are the 5 things that I'm going to do the next day, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to them. For an example, for a food addiction, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. Can't talk. I need more coffee. Okay. So for food addiction, for me, it was, okay, first, I'm going to eat 3 meals a day. Second, I'm going to track my emotions. Third is I'm going to move my body. I'm going to get off this couch. I'm going to walk. Fourth was I'm going to stop Diet Cokes, because Diet Cokes was an addiction to me. And I would drink about 4 or 5 a day, and I knew I had a problem. So I was like, I'm not going to have a Diet Coke today. And the fifth one for me was I'm not going to run to food for emotions. I'm going to pray through these emotions that I'm feeling. Those were 5 steps that I did the next day. So I got up the next day and I held myself accountable, because I knew if I did not, how it would make me feel inside. Because when you say that you're going to do something for yourself and you don't do it, guess what happens? You feel icky inside. You feel like you can't trust yourself. You don't feel authentic. You feel horrible. And that destroys your confidence. And when you are not confident, you are not going to be the best version of yourself. You are not going to do the right things for yourself. You are not going to love yourself the way that you need to love yourself, okay? So I would get up the next day and I'm like, okay, Brandy, it's right here, black and white in front of you. You're not going to go to bed until you've done all these things. And you also can have an accountability partner that will help you. So you can have a friend do this with you, or you can be in my group, my Confidence is Your Crown group, and pair up with accountability partner if you would like. But you could go all day and check mark it off, and then check in with your accountability partner at night and say, hey girl, I crushed today, I slayed it. Or hey guy, I like nailed whatever guys say, I don't know. Trying to think what my husband says, but you know, whatever guys say to each other, hey dude, I don't know, but hey, I crushed today, we're going to do it again tomorrow, and you're going to write out 5 steps that you're going to do the next day, okay? And you're going to do that for a solid week, and if you do that for a solid week, you're going to feel like a rock star. You're going to be like Wonder Woman, like, my goodness, I set a goal for myself and I accomplished it this week. I'm a rock star. That's how you're going to talk to yourself. Because if you cheer yourself on like that, you are going to believe it. And you're going to be like, okay, I can do this the next week. I just crushed week 1. Now let's crush week 2. Ready? All right. So then you do the same thing again. You get your journal out and you start doing the same thing every day, every night before you go to bed. And that is one good way to break the habit of it. Okay. So that's something that I did, and it took me about a full month to really get the niche of it, to really hold myself accountable, to really start seeing a change in my habits. That works, okay? The second thing is get plugged up in an addiction recovery class. Don't be ashamed to walk in there. I know it's scary. I've been there. I understand the way it feels. I've sat in that parking lot and debated, I'm not going to go inside. People are going to judge me. Nobody else has my problem. I don't need to go to an addiction recovery class because I'm not addicted to drugs, or, well, I take that back. Yes, I was. I was addicted to diet pills. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I sat in that parking lot many nights and was like, I'm not going to walk in there. I don't want to walk in there. I even went to an Overeaters Anonymous class, and I think I was the only girl in there several times, and that was very intimidating. But it also was refreshing to me to see that men were struggling with this too, and I was not alone, and they could sympathize with what I was going through. There are plenty of addiction recovery classes depending on your faith. If you are a Christian, my biggest advice is to get plugged into Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery helped me so much. And if you don't have a class, or if you need to find a class, you can message me and I will put in your zip code and I'll help locate you a class for you. But you can also get online on Celebrate Recovery, their website, and you can purchase items. They have the books that you can get to walk through the 12 steps that are amazing, that have it's very good stuff. It talks about it goes through their 12 steps. But there's books in there, and it tells you have lessons and you have homework that you need to do, okay? All this fun stuff that you can do in here. And I say fun because you're going to dive deep in what the root of it is, because that's what we talked about the other day, was the root cause of what's making you do this, okay? So they have these. They also have a Bible. They also have a devotional that's amazing. I love my devotional. So they have great tools for you, as well as people that you can physically be with that will walk through with you at the same time. I also have my group on Facebook as well. There is also amazing 12-step programs out there. There's amazing programs online. But I highly recommend that you get plugged into some kind of step system or some kind of counseling, some kind of therapy out there. A lot of insurances now will take on mental addiction, which I'm so glad to see that. There is also a place in Texas that I forgot. I need to look up the name because I looked at going there myself when I was struggling with my compulsive eating, and I will get the name of it. There's a great place in Texas that is for eating disorders, and you go there and she's amazing. But you go there for a little bit. It's like you go and you check yourself in, and it's awesome. All right. But I want you to realize that you're not alone, and you can break the problem. But try to stay away from your trigger foods. Once you realize what your trigger food is, and it's going to be hard, that trigger food is going to talk to you like it's your best friend. It's going to be like, hey girl, I know you had a bad day. You need to come and eat me because I'll make your tummy and your heart feel better. That is my smart popcorn that I love right now. And I know I can't eat it because guess what's going to happen? It's going to trigger me. So when I do want it, I get the small bag, not the big bag, okay? I get the small bag. But you're going to have trigger foods. You're going to have that cake in your refrigerator going, girl, it's okay, come eat me, and you can start back tomorrow. Those are your trigger foods. You need to know those moments and know to avoid them. Try not to keep them in your house. I know it's hard if you have kids or people that live with you. Even when you're at a family reunion or your grandma's house or your mom and dad's or whatever, and they have that trigger food, you have to say to yourself, no, I'm not going to let that food overpower my goals. Okay? And that is some more of my steps in my confidence when you can talk about like how to hold yourself accountable, those kind of things. Now, if you don't, let's say you break your food addiction, but you truly don't break your addiction tendencies, guess what happens? You're going to put that in other things. You can put that into drugs. That addiction will go into shopping. That addiction will go into many different forms if you don't get to the root of it, okay? So that's why I'm telling you, it's a whole process. It's like a team effort. You need to get plugged into a 12-step program. Okay, now, how do you create healthy eating habits in yourself if you do suffer from food addiction? Because that addiction is so more difficult than any other out there, because it's not like you can quit food cold turkey like you can drugs or alcohol, because you have to eat to survive. So you're going to always be around food. When you drive down the street, there's like 5 fast food places. You're around it and you're surrounded by it. So you have to develop a mental strong personality, and you have to know your reason why, and you have to create that vision for yourself. But it can be done. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of advice on how to break a food addiction. Try these simple steps for a week. Promise me you're going to try it for a week and see how it works for you. And then if you need help getting plugged into Celebrate Recovery, you can go on their website. You can type in your zip code and it will pull up classes for you. There's also other things out there for you in your areas. Pretty much it's been talked about quite a bit. A few years ago it wasn't talked about. Growing up, it wasn't talked about when I was growing up, but there is help out there. And a lot of times you'll see it in your families. It's a generational thing. You'll be able to go back and see, hey, my mom had this. My dad had this. This is where it comes from. This is where it stems from. But you got to get to the root of it, and you got to hold yourself accountable too. Because yes, you can get a sponsor and you can get an accountability partner, but you can also lie to them because they're not with you 24/7 holding your hand. They're not knocking that food out of your hand. I mean, wouldn't that be great to have a coach walk around with us and be like, can't eat that. So you got to be truthful with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself, and because you just have to. Because at the end of the day, like I told you the other day, what matters the most is, did you make yourself proud? Because when you make yourself proud and you're your biggest cheerleader, you will start living the best life yet. Okay? So there's my advice for anybody that's suffering. You can overcome it. I promise you. This past week has been one of the hardest weeks I've gone through in the past 4 to 5 months. and I have not run to food. And that's a big accomplishment for me, because in the past I would have ate all week long. But I have prayed through it. I have done what I preach, and I'm telling you, it works, and you have to be strong. And if you have a diet pill addiction, because I sure did, that's an addiction, and you can hurt yourself. You can hurt your heart. Please trust me on that. I was on phentermine for years. You can do some damage to your heart. Do not do what I did. Do not have heart problems, and don't do it. It's not worth it. There is not a magic pill that's going to make you thin. It can cut back on your appetite, but after a while, your body is so smart and it starts getting used to that, and you got to change it up, or you got to take more. It's not worth it. It's worth it doing it the right way, eating healthy and exercising, and watching what you're addicted to and overcoming that addiction, because you can break that bad habit. You can be stronger than any of your favorite food. And once you do start breaking that habit and you don't have a trigger food, but maybe you want to eat a junk food, or don't deny yourself. Everything in moderation for an addicted personality needs to be done. Because if you have an addiction and somebody tells you you can't have something, what are you going to do? You're going to rebel. So now I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol here, because with that, you don't need to get back on that. But I'm talking about with food. It is okay once you get past the point where you've gone through the 12 steps, or when you've gotten the help and you feel like you can do right, you can have some things in moderation, but just tell yourself, this is all I'm having, and stay true to it. Journal technique is going to be your biggest key. All right? I love you. May God bless you. I'm always here for you. I'm rooting for you. Find that crown inside of your heart. You can do this, and you can overcome it. If I can, by golly, anybody can. Okay? I'll see y'all soon. Bye.